Final Fantasy XIV won Best Community at the Golden Joystick Awards, but I know your dirty little secrets, and I'm about to expose them. Hello everybody, my name is Ffxiv, and I'm back at content creation, so all 5 of you viewers can go ahead, sit back and relax as I explain to you the darker side of Final Fantasy XIV's gaming community. However, before we begin, I want to go ahead and preface that I believe that Final Fantasy XIV deserves this win. I even went ahead and voted myself. We win big every single time. However, just like in every single gaming community and any sort of community in general, toxicity still exists, and it's up to that community to address it. And that's what I want to do here today. And before we get into that, I want to go ahead and focus on the positive shit. The shit that we should, for the most part, be focusing on, but I'm an annoying little gremlin that wants to focus on the negative shit. But first, the positives.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
And there's 3 key points that I want to go over. One is that this is the 2nd consecutive year that Final Fantasy XIV has won the best gaming community. And to me, I think that's a pretty good testament to how strong the Final Fantasy XIV community actually is. We will band together not only to just make sure that Final Fantasy XIV as a game wins awards, but we will also support each other. Mainly creators, a lot of creators, but just in-game as well. It's the only game where I've actually noticed people will just log in just to hang out with the people they're currently in a Discord with. Kind of weird to do that, but it's something that we do, and I think it's a really neat thing. It kind of shows that Final Fantasy is what brings us together, and it almost brings a tear to my eye as we take all these other video games lunch money when it comes to winning awards, despite the fact we only won one.
What are you talking about?
Which leads into my next point, which is that Final Fantasy XIV also got nominated for 2 other categories, which we got snubbed on, which was the Still Playing Award and the Best Expansion Award for Endwalker. Now, we didn't win those 2, but we did get nominated, so we can give ourselves a nice pat on the back for that, at least. But we won the Best Community Award, and that is a big fucking deal. It doesn't just show that the players are awesome, it shows that the developers actually give a shit about the atmosphere of the game, which there are so many companies that don't do this. Instead, they would rather just fucking twiddle their thumbs and let automated systems control the atmosphere. But it's not just the developers, and it's not just the players, and it's not just the community as a whole, but the game itself. The story of the game is designed, and it portrays a very strong sense of forgiveness. One that every single time I find a villain that I think I could just genuinely hate for a little bit, they go ahead and backhand me with a sob story that makes me feel really bad for the characters. Which leads to the announcement of the big win by Final Fantasy XIV's official Twitter page saying, "We are super grateful that Final Fantasy XIV has won Best Game Picture at this year's Golden Joystick Awards. Thank you so much for all your votes. Here's to many more adventures together." And shortly after that tweet, they went ahead and posted a video of Naoki Yoshida going ahead and thanking the player base of Final Fantasy XIV.
今回はベストゲームコミュニティという大変素晴らしい賞をいただきまして誠にありがとうございます。
And I think we can go ahead and agree that we probably owe them some thanks as well. I mean, they are the ones that make the game at the end of the day, and they're the ones that enforce the rules that make this community a lot nicer to exist in, as opposed to other communities that exist out there. But I think that's enough ass-kissing to the Final Fantasy XIV community. It's well-deserved ass-kissing, but I think we need to transition to more of an ass-kicking sort of mood. Yes, the Final Fantasy XIV community's dark side. I'm talking about the side that nobody likes to talk about it. And whenever I do talk about it, at least on stream, I do get the sense that people know what I'm talking about. They just don't want me to talk about it. It's more of a, yeah, we know this happens, but let's more focus on the fact that we're kind of awesome in a whole lot of other ways. And look at those guys, they suck, and we're pretty awesome. They suck, awesome, they suck, no wars and bossing, say that sort of vibe that I get every single time we talk about this issue. And I think we, as a community, need to come together to realize that just because we're the best does not mean that we are perfect.
But Ffxiv, what are you talking about? Why? Why would you bring up these falsities? But there's so much more good in Final Fantasy XIV's community. Why would we want to go ahead and start focusing on the bad shit? You're gonna make us look bad.
Well, shut the fuck up and maybe I'll tell you. I'm gonna go ahead and set the stage for you real quick. It's May 15th, 2022. I just got off work and there is nothing I need to do. I don't need a stream, I have no other obligations, I can just log on to Final Fantasy XIV and enjoy the people I'm playing with. I saw that my FC leader was online in our FC house, so I first went there to stop by and say my hellos. It had been some time since I had last spoken with her. Knowing her, she was likely remodeling the FC house for a new venue idea. Sure enough, she was remodeling, so I say my hellos and make remarks as to how the place looks with the redesign. She goes on to explain some of the new room designs and their purposes, new revamp to the Dungeons and Dragons room, new furniture for the dining hall, and so forth. And that's when I asked about the venues, her pride and joy of Final Fantasy XIV. She loved them so much that she ran 3 separate in-game clubs by herself. And yet, when I asked, she simply said, they're not. She then continued to say that she had basically abandoned the game for the most part, that once she's finished remodeling the house, she's done. Sometimes you realize that the community isn't for you. This community isn't for me. I'll be going back to World of Warcraft. At least there, people just tell you to drink bleach, but they never make you want to actually do it. I can tell you now that running venues has made me see the hidden toxicity people like to pretend isn't there. At least people in World of Warcraft wear their toxic out loud for everyone to hear and see. For the most part, it's really just shit talking. But people here, in the RP community at least, are a manipulative sort of toxic. It's ugly. And God help you if you're seen as a threat to anyone's in-game business. There wasn't much I could think of saying at the time. After all, this was someone who represented the best of the Final Fantasy XIV community. And she was leaving it. But what I did say was thank you. For if it were not for her, and others like her, this game may have not kept me for as long as it did. I had also gone on to say that I would be missing her tours through the venues she would remodel, and wished her luck in other avenues of gaming. At the time, it seemed to have lightened the mood. Shortly after, we said our goodbyes, and I gone my separate way. Since then, I had only heard from her once after. She had explained that she was doing better since that time, that she was happier, and that it was all behind her. But even after all this time, she has never returned. That's a real story. It's my story. Of someone who I thoroughly enjoyed in Final Fantasy XIV. She will not be named. And yet, she got harassed to the point where she felt like she needed to leave the game entirely and go back to a game that, in my opinion, is notoriously way more toxic, like undeniably shittier. And somehow she went ahead and figured, that's probably a better place. There's some weird shit that goes down in the Final Fantasy XIV community. And it's creepy. It's deceitful as well, because it can go past the eyes of those that enforce the rules that make this place so kind. Now, this isn't to say that the Final Fantasy XIV community does not actually discuss this. There have been legitimate discussions on this. However, they are so infrequent, and yet whoever goes ahead and starts talking about it says it's so ungodly common. So what the fuck is going on? Are we just sliding it under the rug? Do we really need that person part of our group? Are we okay with just letting people come through, harass the people that we play with, and if they do get banned, they just make another account and repeat that same shit? I think we as a community need to, one, be better and start recognizing that these people exist, and I think we need to start calling out these people more frequently. It's always a news flash. It's always a breaking news when somebody goes ahead and says that they've been harassed in Final Fantasy XIV, and that there were a few people that did know but didn't really say anything. This is not great. But this is not just my thoughts and my own thinking. This is of the 1,496 people who agree to that. These people that somehow have been feeling this way for a very long time, however, you really don't hear shit about it. I go ahead on May 15th, 2022, and I post the screenshots of our chat that we had with my FC leader. And that tweet blows the fuck up. I went ahead and said, it goes without saying that all communities have their toxic people. Final Fantasy XIV is no different, and it's enough to drive people like my FC leader from the game. It's good to acknowledge that nothing is perfect, and we must discourage others from partaking in toxic behavior. 209 retweets, 46 quote retweets, 1,496 likes, and a lot of comments. Some people had to say, people need to stop pretending that Final Fantasy XIV is such a ooh-woo wholesome community all the time. It's not. It's toxic as shit, like any other online community. I've been on both sides in the past. People forget there is no community. There's hundreds upon thousands of sub-communities inside a game, and they absolutely clash with each other constantly. This has literally happened to me. I barely play the game now because of how ridiculous they were. My first year in Final Fantasy XIV, I was super immersed in the RP scene. The amount of insanely toxic, gross behavior happening shocks literally everyone I tell. After 6 months, I was explaining a situation to my friends, and they literally said to me, "Why do you play this? It sounds awful." And there are many, many more of testimonies from Final Fantasy XIV players of that exact same shit. Even more so in the comments, discussions that led for days inside of that thread. It's important to remind ourselves that just because we win an award that says best community, it does not mean we are perfect. We need to go ahead and discourage people that act toxic. We need to go ahead and address that there are toxic people inside the community. And I'm sure a lot of people have. I'm sure you have as well. I trust that you're a decent person. I'm a decent person. I call this shit out whenever I can see it. But it definitely does seem like because we keep getting kind of gassed up, like we are an awesome community, we don't want this reputation to go anywhere. And that's about it. I'm not entirely too sure if this is going to rub the community a wrong way. I'm fully capable of understanding and taking in criticism of anything I said that you think was wrong. I'm not here to debate. This happens. I've seen it. We've all seen it. But less people talk about it. And I think I have a theory as to why not so many people talk about it. We don't want to be seen as a bad community. We also don't want people in our community to attack us for saying or addressing problems within our community. We're afraid. But I'll leave you with this. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the triumph over it. So, next time you see some shit happening inside Final Fantasy XIV, if it's something that the devs cannot deal with, or they tried and it came back, have courage and address that shit. Show people in this game that we are better. That's it. Bye-bye.